Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Onyx Shadowing English, where we help you learn English through fun and simple stories. Today, we're going to follow the story of Alex, a young woman who found joy in reading again. In this chapter, Alex looks back at her progress and celebrates all she has achieved with her reading goals. She also plans for the future and sets exciting new challenges for herself. So, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy this inspiring story together. Chapter 1: Finding Joy in Reading Again. Alex, a young woman with a busy life, used to love reading. But lately, she had no time for books. She worked long hours, and when she wasn't working, she spent time with friends or watched TV. Books seemed too hard to fit into her schedule. One day, Alex looked at her bookshelf and felt sad. She missed the joy of reading. She missed getting lost in a good story. So Alex decided it was time to make a change. She wanted to read again, but this time, she wanted to make it fun. First, Alex thought about her reading space. She didn't want to just read anywhere. She wanted a special place where she could relax and enjoy her books. So she decided to create a reading nook. She found a corner in her living room with good light. She put a soft chair there, added some pillows, and placed a small table next to it. On the table, she kept a cup of tea or hot chocolate. Now her reading nook was ready. It looked cozy and inviting, like a place she would want to sit and read for hours. Next, Alex thought about what to read. She remembered that sometimes she started reading books but didn't finish them. The reason? The books were boring. This time, she promised herself that she would only read books that made her feel excited. She didn't need to finish a book if it didn't make her happy. It was okay to stop and start a new one. So, she began choosing books that really interested her. Alex loved stories about adventures, fantasy worlds, and inspiring characters. She picked up a book about a young girl traveling to a magical land. The story was fun, and Alex couldn't stop turning the pages. It made her smile, and for the first time in a long time, she felt the joy of reading again. But Alex didn't stop there. She wanted to try something new. One day, while waiting for the bus, she downloaded an audiobook on her phone. It was perfect for when she didn't have time to sit down with a book. Now she could listen to stories while commuting, cooking, or even cleaning the house. Listening to books was a new experience, and it made reading feel fresh and exciting again. Alex also tried reading ebooks. She could carry many books in her small tablet. It was so easy. She could read in bed, on the bus, or even in a cafe. No more heavy books to carry around. She loved the feeling of having an entire library in her hands. One day, Alex's friend invited her to join a book club. At first, Alex wasn't sure if she had time for it, but she thought it might be fun to talk about books with others. She decided to try it out. The book club met once a month, and each month they talked about a new book. Alex found that she enjoyed discussing the stories with her friends. It made reading more fun because now she had people to share her thoughts with. The book club gave her a reason to keep reading. Over the next few weeks, Alex spent more time in her reading nook. Every evening, after work, she would make a cup of tea, sit in her cozy chair, and read a few chapters. Sometimes she would listen to audiobooks while cooking dinner. Other times, she would read ebooks on her tablet while riding the bus. Little by little, Alex rediscovered the joy of reading. It wasn't just about finishing books. It was about enjoying the experience. By making reading fun again, Alex turned it into something special. She looked forward to her time with books, and slowly, reading became a regular part of her life once more. It wasn't a chore anymore. It was a pleasure. Chapter 2. Staying motivated along the way. Alex was happy to be reading again. She loved spending time in her reading nook, with a cup of tea and a good book. But after a few weeks, something started to happen. Sometimes Alex felt too tired to read. Other days, she felt like there were too many other things to do, like work, house chores, or meeting friends. She didn't always feel excited to pick up her book. Alex didn't want to lose her love for reading again. She needed a way to stay motivated. She needed to make sure she didn't stop reading, even when life got busy. The first thing Alex did was set small, realistic goals for herself. She knew that trying to read a whole book quickly could feel overwhelming, especially with her busy schedule. So she decided to start with a simple goal: read 10 pages a day. That didn't seem like too much, and it was something she could do every day, even if she was tired or busy. Alex realized that setting small goals made reading feel easier. On some days, when she had more time, she read more than 10 pages. On other days, when she was very tired, she still made sure to read at least a few pages before going to bed. Even reading a little bit every day made her feel proud of herself. Slowly, Alex saw that she was finishing her books one by one, and that felt good. But Alex also wanted to make her reading goals more fun. So, she decided to track her progress. She bought a small notebook and called it her reading journal. In the journal, Alex wrote down the titles of the books she was reading. She also wrote the dates when she started and finished each book. Sometimes, she would write a few thoughts about the story or the characters. Each time Alex finished a book, she would look back at her reading journal and feel proud. The list of books she had read was getting longer and longer. Seeing her progress helped her stay motivated because it reminded her of how much she had already achieved. One day, Alex's friend told her about an app called Goodreads. It was a place where people could share their reading lists, write reviews, and see what other people were reading. Alex decided to try it. She made an account and started adding the books she had read to her virtual bookshelf. The best part of Goodreads was that Alex could set a reading challenge for herself. She could choose how many books she wanted to read in a year. Alex set a goal to read 12 books, one for each month. The app would show her how far along she was in her challenge. It also gave her recommendations for new books to read. Based on what she liked, the reading challenge made reading feel like a game, and Alex loved it. But tracking her progress and setting goals wasn't enough. Alex needed something more to stay motivated, so she decided to join a reading community. One of her friends invited her to join a book club. At first, Alex was nervous. She wasn't sure if she would have enough time to read the books the club chose. But after the first meeting, Alex realized that the book club was a great way to stay motivated. The book club met once a month, and each time they discussed a different book. Alex liked talking about the characters, the plot, and the themes with other people. The discussions helped her understand the books better, and she enjoyed hearing other people's opinions. The book club also gave her a reason to keep reading. She didn't want to fall behind or miss out on the fun conversations. At one of the book club meetings, Alex met a woman named Sarah. Sarah loved to read, just like Alex, and the two became friends. Sarah told Alex about a reading app that helped her stay motivated. The app let her set a timer and track how much time she spent reading each day. Alex decided to give it a try. Every evening, She would set the timer for 20 minutes and read. Seeing the time she spent reading made her feel accomplished, even on days when she didn't have much time. One evening, Sarah asked Alex if she wanted to join her in a reading marathon. The idea was simple. Both of them would spend a whole Saturday reading as much as they could. They didn't have to read the same books, but they would check in with each other throughout the day to talk about what they were reading. Alex loved the idea. The reading marathon was a fun way to stay motivated, and it gave Alex something to look forward to. The marathon day finally came. Alex woke up early, made a big breakfast, and got comfortable in her reading nook. She started with a book she had been excited to read for a long time. Every hour or so, she would take a short break and send Sarah a message about how her reading was going. Sarah would reply with updates about her own reading. By the end of the day, Alex had finished one book and started another. It felt amazing. The marathon helped her get back into the habit of reading for long periods of time, and she realized how much she missed it. Another thing that helped Alex stay motivated was finding a reading buddy. Sarah and Alex became each other's reading buddies. They would set small goals together, like reading a certain number of pages by the end of the week, and they would check in with each other to see how they were doing. Having someone to share her progress with made Alex more excited about reading. Whenever she felt unmotivated, Sarah would encourage her to keep going, and Alex did the same for Sarah. Over time, Alex discovered that staying motivated was not just about setting goals or tracking progress. It was also about finding joy in the process. She learned to enjoy the small moments of reading, a quiet morning with a good book, a fun conversation with a friend about a story, or the feeling of finishing a great chapter. Each of these moments reminded her why she loved reading in the first place. Chapter 3: Sticking to the Plan. Alex had made a lot of progress in her reading journey. She had set small goals, joined a book club, and even found a reading buddy. But now she needed to find a way to stick to her plan. Life was still busy, and there were many things that could easily distract her from reading. She didn't want to lose her momentum. One thing Alex decided to do was to make reading a part of her daily routine. She knew that if she wanted to stick to her goals, she needed to create a habit. Habits are things we do automatically without thinking too much about them. So, Alex thought about when she could fit reading into her day. She started by thinking about her mornings. Usually, Alex woke up, got ready for work, and left the house in a rush. She didn't have much time in the morning. But then she realized that she often had a few minutes while she drank her coffee. That could be a perfect time to read. It wasn't much time, but it was enough to read a few pages. So Alex decided to make a new rule for herself: read for 10 minutes every morning while having coffee. At first, it felt a little strange to read in the morning. She wasn't used to it. But after a few days, it became a habit. She looked forward to her quiet time in the morning with a good book. The 10 minutes each morning didn't feel like a lot, but over time, it added up. After a while, Alex decided to add another reading habit to her day. She loved reading in her cozy reading nook, but she didn't always have time to sit there, so she thought about how she could read at other times during the day. One day, while waiting for the bus, Alex realized she had her book in her bag. Usually, she would check her phone or listen to music while waiting, but this time, she decided to take out her book and read. It was a small moment, Just a few minutes of reading while waiting for the bus, but it made Alex feel happy. She realized that there were many small moments in her day when she could read, like while waiting in line or during her lunch break. After a few weeks, Alex had created a new routine. She read every morning while having coffee, and she read whenever she had small moments of free time during the day. She didn't need to find big blocks of time for reading anymore. Instead, she made use of the little moments in her day. And it worked. She was reading more than ever before, without feeling like she was forcing herself. But Alex knew that to stick to her goals, she needed to keep her reading routine fun and flexible. She didn't want reading to feel like a chore. So, she found ways to make her reading time more enjoyable. One thing Alex did was to pair reading with another activity she enjoyed. For example, she loved listening to soft music in the background while reading. She made a playlist of her favorite relaxing songs and played it quietly while she read. The music helped her feel calm and made her reading time even more special. Alex also loved drinking tea, especially in the evening. So she decided to make a small evening ritual, a cup of tea and a good book before bed. It became her way of unwinding after a long day. She would make herself a cup of herbal tea, sit in her reading nook, and spend 20 minutes reading before going to sleep. This routine helped her relax, and it made reading feel like a treat instead of something she had to do. Another way Alex made reading fun was by choosing books that fit her mood. Sometimes she wanted to read something light and funny. Other times, she was in the mood for something more serious. Alex realized that she didn't have to follow a strict reading list. She could choose books based on how she felt that day. If she wasn't enjoying a book, she allowed herself to put it aside and start something new. This flexibility made reading feel more enjoyable, and it kept her from getting bored. But even with her new routines and habits, there were still days when Alex didn't feel like reading. Some days she was too tired. Other days she was distracted by other things like work or social media. Alex didn't want to lose her reading habit, so she came up with a plan to stay on track, even on days when she wasn't feeling motivated. Her plan was simple: start with small, manageable chunks. On days when Alex didn't feel like reading, she told herself to just read for 5 minutes. 5 minutes wasn't a big commitment, and it didn't feel overwhelming. Often, once she started reading, she found herself getting into the story and reading for longer than 5 minutes. But even if she only read for a few minutes, she still felt good about sticking to her habit. Another thing that helped Alex stick to her reading plan was celebrating small victories. Every time she finished a book, she treated herself to something small, like a new book or a nice dinner. These little rewards helped her stay motivated, and they gave her something to look forward to. It didn't have to be a big reward, just something that made her feel happy and proud of her progress. As the months went by, Alex saw that her reading habit was getting stronger. She had finished more books than she ever thought possible, and she was proud of herself for sticking to her goals. But more importantly, she had found a way to make reading a part of her life in a way that felt natural and enjoyable. It wasn't about reading as much as possible. It was about finding joy in the process and making it a regular part of her day. One evening, while sitting in her reading nook with a cup of tea and a good book, Alex thought about how far she had come. She had turned reading into a habit, and she had found a way to make it a fun and relaxing part of her life. She no longer worried about finishing a certain number of books or meeting a strict goal. Instead, she focused on enjoying each moment of reading, whether it was 5 minutes or an hour. For Alex, sticking to her reading plan wasn't just about discipline. It was about finding balance between work and relaxation, between fun and routine. She had learned that reading didn't have to be something big or serious. It could be a small, quiet part of her day that brought her joy and peace. And that was enough. Chapter 4: Celebrating Progress and Looking Forward. Alex had come a long way since she first started her reading journey. She used to struggle to find time to read, but now reading was a natural part of her daily routine. She read every morning with her coffee, she read on the bus, and she read before bed with her favorite cup of tea. She had also finished more books than she ever imagined. Alex was proud of herself. She had worked hard to build her reading habit, and now she was seeing the results. To celebrate her progress, Alex decided to do something special for herself. She wanted to reward herself for sticking to her reading goals. First, Alex made a plan to buy a new book. She loved going to the bookstore and looking at all the new books on the shelves. It always made her feel excited about reading. So one Saturday, Alex went to her favorite bookstore. She spent a long time walking around, looking at different books. Finally, she picked out a book that she had been wanting to read for a while. It was a novel by one of her favorite authors. When she got home, Alex couldn't wait to start reading her new book. She sat in her cozy reading nook with a cup of tea and opened the first page. As she read, she felt proud of how far she had come. She remembered when reading used to feel hard, and now it felt easy and fun. She had turned reading into a habit, and it was something she truly enjoyed. But buying a new book wasn't the only way Alex celebrated her progress. She also wanted to look back at the books she had already read. She decided to go through her reading journal, where she kept track of all the books she had finished. As she flipped through the pages, Alex felt a sense of accomplishment. Each book she had read was a small victory. She had learned new things from each book, and she had grown as a reader. Alex realized that reading wasn't just about finishing books. It was about the journey. Each book she read taught her something new or took her to a new world. She had learned about different cultures, new ideas, and interesting characters. Some books made her laugh, while others made her think. Every book had left its mark on her, and she was grateful for that. As Alex looked back on her progress, she also started to think about the future. She had already achieved so much, but she knew there was more to come. She wanted to keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing. So, she decided to set new reading goals for herself. Her first goal was simple: to keep reading for at least 10 minutes every day. This was a goal she had been sticking to, and it had worked well for her. Alex knew that even on busy days, she could find 10 minutes to read. It wasn't a big commitment, but it made a big difference over time. But Alex also wanted to challenge herself with some new goals. One of her goals was to read books from different genres. She loved reading novels, but she realized there were many other types of books she hadn't explored yet. For example, she wanted to try reading some nonfiction books. Alex thought it would be interesting to learn about real events or new topics that she didn't know much about. She made a list of a few nonfiction books she wanted to try. Another goal Alex set for herself was to read books that were a bit more difficult. She usually read books that were easy and enjoyable, but now she wanted to push herself a little. She decided to choose a book that was longer or had more complex ideas. She knew it might take her longer to finish, but she was excited about the challenge. Alex also thought about how she could make reading even more fun in the future. One idea she had was to plan a reading day. She loved the idea of spending an entire day just reading. No distractions, no phone, just her and her books. She imagined herself sitting in her reading nook, surrounded by pillows, with a stack of books and cups of tea. It sounded like the perfect way to relax and enjoy her love of reading. To make it even more special, Alex decided that when she finished her new reading goals, she would treat herself to a day like this. It would be a way to celebrate her hard work and dedication. She planned to mark the day on her calendar and look forward to it as a reward. As Alex looked ahead, she felt excited about the future of her reading journey. She knew that reading had become an important part of her life, and she wanted to keep it that way. She didn't need to set huge goals or read hundreds of books. For her, it was more important to enjoy the process, to learn new things, and to keep challenging herself in small ways. Looking forward, Alex smiled. She knew that the journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. There were so many books out there waiting for her, and she couldn't wait to dive in. Whether she was reading for 10 minutes a day or spending a whole day with her books, she knew that she had found a hobby that would bring her joy for years to come. And so, Alex continued on her reading journey, always looking for new ways to grow and new books to explore. She knew that every book was a new adventure, and she couldn't wait to see where her next one would take her. Wow, wasn't that a wonderful journey? Alex showed us how important it is to celebrate our progress, no matter how small. She learned that reading is not just about finishing books, but enjoying the journey and always looking for new ways to challenge herself. Remember, when you set goals and celebrate each step forward, you can keep growing and learning just like Alex. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to practice your English, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Onyx Shadowing English for more stories like this. See you in the next video.